Welcome back, Honestman, Skyrim Optimized, here with Mary Abernathy, Ayla, and Parthenax. We have a whole lot of catching up to do, but first and foremost, I want to address why we are standing here. You're going to want to advance the main quest all the way through Elder Knowledge. We are just prior to that point, but I did want to take a quick minute here to outline two things. First, Parthenax allows you to meditate on one of three words of power, and I think far and away the best option is Foos, and that grants you a permanent boon, Force Without Effort, and it reads, you stagger 25% less, and foes stagger 25% more. So this is great, especially if you are playing a build that may have a weight handicap. High Elves, for example, by default, are much more prone to being staggered than other race selections. There are others that fall into that category as well. If you want a refresher, I'm going to have a tag here for my race selection video where I go into that topic in more detail. The second and probably more important reason we're here is we got a little climbing to do. Now, there's a special pickaxe up here, and if you are playing the base game, I am under the impression that this pickaxe is bugged and not worth bothering with. So do be aware of that. However, if you're using the unofficial Skyrim patch mod, this will be fixed, and it will give you, in fact, a boon to your smithing capabilities. So we absolutely want this as a part of our endgame crafting protocol. There we go. And there is also some really good mine deposits up here. There's some ebony. Make sure you avail yourself of that. But here is our prize, the notched pickaxe. And as you can see, it says raises the wielder's smithing abilities. And indeed, it bestows a +5 to your smithing. Jumping ahead here, we are now outside the outpost of Septimus Sigmus, hot on the trail of our Elder Scroll in the main storyline. Now, last episode, we were in the land of Solstheim, excavating Azadal's relics, and a lot has happened since then. First and foremost, that was a very pricey excavation effort for us, so I replenished my funds by going to the Thieves Guild and doing side jobs. Now, ultimately, you want to complete all of those side jobs anyway, and by complete all of them, what I mean is you want 5 jobs per major hold, each of the 4. Windhelm, Whiterun, Solitude, and Markarth. So I completed all 20 of those, and in addition, I completed 2 of these special jobs. I did the one in Whiterun because that one's just dead easy, and I also did the one in Solitude. These special jobs for Windhelm and Markarth, I have not yet completed. Those are a little more involved and have some dungeon diving, but you definitely want the first 2 because that's going to give you access to the Thieves Guild Alchemist. Now, when you're doing those side jobs for the Thieves Guild, you really want the Numbers job from Malroy and the Burglary job from Vex. As far as I'm concerned, those are the easiest, and you can knock those out very quickly. Of course, having completed all those jobs and replenished my wallet, I promptly emptied my wallet out again. As you can see here, I'm character level 35 after having run these errands, and I invested a grand total of 10 levels of training into light armor. So character level 33 and 34 had 10 levels total put into light armor, again following our strategy of being careful not to waste our bonus XP. And I did pay for all 10 of those training ranks outright. Just cash money. Our pickpocket over there on the right hand side is still level 49 where we left off last time. So we're playing it pretty straight here at the moment, and I'm still just trying to manage the gas pedal on how quickly we're advancing our character progression. But we are very close now to the point of putting the pedal down. In addition to those side jobs for the Thieves Guild, we also want to advance the Dark Brotherhood questline. Now, this should be very simple and straightforward, at least as far as we need to go. And the point we're looking for is the point at which we are charged with killing Cicero. That's important for a couple of reasons. The first is that's when we get Shadowmere, our undead mount. Shadowmere is definitely a key component to us maximizing our skills, so you really want Shadowmere. In addition, that's the point where you can travel to Dawnstar Sanctuary, and just inside Dawnstar Sanctuary, you don't need to fight a single thing, you find these Jester's clothes. And these are special because this is the only clothing item in the game, and when I say clothing in this context, I mean chest piece. This is the only chest piece in the game that gives you a bonus to bartering. So prices are 12% better with the Jester's clothes. And since we're about to do a whole lot of crafting, maximizing our barter is definitely going to be to our advantage. So definitely grab the Jester's clothes. Like I said, it's right after Shadowmere, so should be very easy. Now, for extra credit, you want to actually go through and kill Cicero, because his outfit is an upgraded version of this. That'll give you 20% better prices instead of 12. I haven't done that yet. I plan to, but just be aware of that. If you want to kind of play easy mode, just grab the Jester's clothes and get out of there. If you want to go the extra mile, go ahead and kill Cicero. If you're interested in a more detailed walkthrough of the Dark Brotherhood questline, I covered that in my survival playthrough with Daenerys. I'll have a card for that here, taking you to sort of the beginning of the Dark Brotherhood arc. Next on our checklist was the College of Winterhold. You don't actually need to do any quests with them. You just need to get your foot in the door for two reasons. One, that'll give you access to the vendors, which is going to be important. And two, that gives us access to Urag, who we need to advance the main storyline, which is how we found our way here, as a matter of fact. Similar to the College of Winterhold, you want to join the Bard's College in Solitude. Again, you don't have to complete any quests, you just need to get your foot in the door. And the reason is because there are 3 side quests associated with the Bard's College to retrieve missing instruments. This is important because each of those instruments corresponds with one of the schools of skills, so warrior, mage, thief. And retrieval of that instrument gives you a +1 to every skill in that alignment. Now, it's important to understand that in order to complete those instrument quests, you don't actually need to obtain them in the first place. And what I mean by that is, normally you'd have to complete that first Bard's quest to become an official Bard of the college. At that point, those people interact with you and give you these side quests. However, if you proactively retrieve the instruments and then go talk to them, it will activate and complete the quest all in one shot. To that end, you can see here that I've cleared out Hobbs Fall Cave, which is the location for Panthea's flute. Panthea's flute, as we see here, is the instrument that gives you the +1 to all of the mage abilities, which is important because I'm about to try to max out enchantment. I'm also trying to max out alchemy and smithing very soon, but I think I just have to take the loss on those. I would much rather wait until my warrior abilities are much higher, and likewise wait until things like light armor and sneak are much higher before doing those respective instruments. Your mileage may vary, of course. Last but not least, since we are preparing to make our push into alchemy, we need to get some free training lined up for ourselves. So go ahead and talk to Frida in Dawnstar. She's the alchemist there. She should give you a side quest to go fetch something for her, a ring. In addition, go to the alchemist in Windhelm. He has a side quest called the White Phial. And those 2 quests are the exact same location, so you can knock them both out at once. And that location is the Forsaken Cave, roughly west-northwest of Windhelm. Clearing that location is going to allow you to complete that White Phial quest, and in addition, you'll obtain this Ring of Pure Mixtures, which is the item that Frida wants in exchange for some free alchemy training. Now we should be all caught up. I know that was a big to-do list, but as with all of these optimized episodes, I'm going to have the checklist of major milestones down in the episode notes if you're trying to keep track and follow along. For the matter at hand now, we are back into the main quest line. And as I mentioned earlier, Elder Knowledge is our goal. So I just talked to our friend Septimus Cygnus, and he pointed us in the location of a Dwemer ruin. He wants us to head over to Ulftand here, and that's going to allow us to transcribe the lexicon and recover the Elder Scroll. However, the real location is not the Dwemer Ruin. The real location we need to get to is Blackreach, which is below the Dwemer Ruin. And we already have a path for that. If you remember, back in Skyrim Optimized episode number 3, and I'll have a card for that here, we traveled to Raldbethar. And that was for an assassination mission for the Dark Brotherhood, and to collect the 3rd Ethereum shard for Lost to the Ages. So we got a 2-for-1 there, but it was actually kind of a 3-for-1. Picking up outside Raldbethar, the enemies out here have respawned, but we're going to give it a wide berth, and that should be fine. And what we're trying to do is get up to the elevator that we used at the conclusion of that first trip here. I didn't show it in detail on the episode because I knew we'd be coming back, but certainly you'll be familiar if you are following along. And Whirlwind Sprint can help make this little piece easier. As long as you can make that jump, you're in good shape. And we get to the steps. And there is our elevator. Just a quick word of warning that I have seen some reports that the door to this elevator will sometimes close after you've opened it. So do be aware of that. Certainly an easy mitigation would be to try to shorten the amount of time between your visits to this location. So the main quest line, for example, you could very easily shift earlier into your playthrough than what I'm presenting here. In any event, our way is open, so we are going to head down. Okay, and this room has respawned since the last time we were here. We can make short work of these guys. Pretty easy at this point. And you can see this is where we had the 3rd Ethereum shard. It was right here. Now what I didn't show back in episode 3 was this gizmo, the Dwarven Mechanism. And we couldn't do anything with it at that time because we didn't have an attunement sphere. But now that Septimus has given us an attunement sphere, we can open it. And just like that, we are in Blackreach without having to go through Alftand. Have some company here. Now we do want to be on the lookout for Crimson Nirnroot, which looks like this. And that is going to start a Return to Your Roots, which is a quest that will ultimately reward us with a 25% chance of producing 2 potions whenever we do our alchemy. So obviously that's going to help us immensely as we make our push into alchemy coming up. But definitely not required. This will actually be my first time completing this quest, so you certainly do not need it. It's just a little extra gravy. It's just, you know, if you're trying to optimize, as they say. We're going to be coming at our objective here, the Elder Scroll, from a different direction than perhaps what people are accustomed to. But if you just sort of veer left and then get lined up with the arrows, that should do the trick. And certainly just keep your ears open for more of the telltale chimes of the Crimson Nirnroot. Whirlwind Sprint is a pretty good way to get across this. Or at least assist a bit. Grab another root there. And here we are, just like that. This will take us up to Mazark. Go. I think an easy way to go about this is you just go right to left. And you just keep pushing the button until the next button comes online. There we go. And again, I'll just keep pushing this one until the fourth one comes online. There we go. There's our Elder Scroll. We killed, what, a grand total of 2 Falmer to get over here? Easy. Okay, so now we've unlocked this location, the Tower of Mazark. That'll allow us to easily fast travel here when we come back. Right now we have to go back to Septimus, though. I've inscribed the lexicon.
Give it, quickly. Extraordinary. I see it now. The ceiling structure interlocks in the tiniest fractals. Dwemer blood can loose the hooks, but none alive remain to bear it. A panoply of their brethren could gather to form a facsimile. A trick. Something they did not anticipate. No, not even them. The blood of Altmer, Bosmer, Dunmer, Falmer, and Orsimer. The elves still living provide the key. Bear you hence this extractor. It will drink the fresh blood of elves. Come when its set is complete.
Excellent. Okay, so we backtracked to the Temple of Mazark, and we're right back down into Blackreach. The exchange that we just saw back there, the quest that was begun, is Discerning the Transmundane. This is a really important quest in my view, in that the reward is a Daedric book that grants you +5 to every skill in the constellation of your choice, warrior, thief, or mage. So even if you say, you know what, collecting Crimson Nirnroot to give a little bit of boost to my alchemy is not an effective use of my time, I would agree. However, you need to come this far anyway to get Discerning the Transmundane. And that +5, I think, is just way too good to just completely forego at this point in the game. Your mileage may vary, of course. This series is all about trying to present the tools, so to speak, and how you choose to assemble those tools is entirely up to you, or, which ones you would care to skip. Now, Discerning the Transmundane, in case I buried the lead there, requires blood samples from all the various elf species, one of which is Falmer. So we're going to harvest the blood of this guy here. There we go. And I definitely do want to note and emphasize that you certainly do want to go to Ulfdand at some point, right? There's treasure there. It's a good dungeon to clear. And more interesting and more pertinent to us here is the fact that it will give you a blood sample for everything except for Dark Elf. The sort of expedition that you discover as you travel that ruin, which preceded you and got wiped out, they're a eclectic group and have every representation, like I said, except for Dark Elf and Falmer, but there's plenty of Falmer. So it's a good way to collect those blood samples. And I do want to note that I've been emphasizing one-handed here. And the reason is because 82 is actually sort of the ceiling for archery. And what I mean by that is there are enough skill books with our +1 bonus from the Black Book, right? Each one is worth +2. There are enough skill books and free training to take you from archery 82 all the way to archery 100. So once I hit 82 in archery, I've really been slow playing that and pushing one-handed instead, which indirectly helps my light armor, because I'm much more up in the mix, obviously, doing melee. And right up there is where you would normally come through if you went through Ulfdand. And right here is Sinderion's field laboratory. Nirnroot. And here is the man himself, Sinderion, and his field journal. So this gives us the details on the quest proper. He was trying to concoct this special thing from these Crimson Nirnroot, and he felt like he needed 30. So that advances the quest and gets us into collect Crimson Nirnroot mode. As you can see, I managed to get 6 on the way over here. As I noted earlier, I'm not going to bore everyone with crawling around looking for 30 Nirnroot, so I'm going to jump ahead here. Okay, so we have our Crimson Nirnroots in hand. We apparently need to find someone named Avrusa Sarethi. So be sure to grab everything that isn't nailed down in this lab. There's tons of alchemy ingredients. And I'm going to have...
I'm still here.
Ayla...
Fine. What? What?
Be sure to grab that skill book.
Will do.
There we go.
That it?
And it looks like our destination is Sarethi Farm, which is just east of Iverstead across the lake.
We could always use help picking crops if you need a few extra coins.
I found Sinderion's remains.
I knew this day would eventually come. At least poor Sinderion died doing what he loved. His field research. I told the old fool we should take it easy, but he was too stubborn. Perhaps someday I'll continue where he left off. It's the least I can do, considering how much he did for me.
Okay, so we missed a little part of the story here. This is his protege. I've brought this Crimson Nirnroot for you.
You've gathered quite a few of them, I see. I'll search through Sinderion's notes and find some more information about the Crimson Nirnroot and its properties.
Here you are.
Thank you. You've done alchemy a great service by helping to complete Sinderion's work. I'd like to give you this tome. It's one of Sinderion's greatest works. I believe you've more than earned it.
And here we have it, Sinderion's Serendipity. There is a 25% chance of creating a duplicate potion when using your alchemy skill. Okay, on the hunt for some blood. I was able to pick up some orc blood from one of the Falmer slaves in Blackreach, but we still need 3 more. So I ended up popping over to Ulfdand after all, because I know this is a good source. And indeed, our first contestant here is Bosmer. So that gives us our Wood Elf blood. And then here we have the unfortunate remains of our High Elf. There we go. And the enemies in Ulftand here shouldn't pose much of a threat. Even with just our mid-game gear, this should be pretty easy sailing. But Ayla and I have what we came for, so we're just going to get out of here. Now, it just so happens that Hobbs Fall Cave, which is very close to Ulftand, is a perfect source for Dark Elf blood. And this is the location I had mentioned earlier that I had cleared out to get Panthea's flute. There's some necromancers kicking around in here, and also some good skill books to grab. But the flute was in this chest at the end of the dungeon, and there happens to be a Dark Elf in this cage here, dead. There we go. And just like that, our blood collection is complete. And if you didn't pick up the orc blood in Blackreach like I did, there'd be an orc body between the Bosmer and Altmer in the Ulftand ruins. So that would have been super easy to get. In any case, we are all set to turn these in. I've brought all the blood.
I can almost hear them. I feel their life energy. Come, I will make the mixture. What is this? It's just a book. I can see. The world beyond burns in my mind. It's marvelous.
There we go. Oghma Infinium. And now, if we go to read the book, it prompts us for Path of Might, Path of Shadow, or Path of Magic. So this is where you choose your constellation. We don't want to do that just yet, though, so we're going to tuck this away. With that book in hand, between episodes, I'm going to be collecting additional books, skill books, specifically looking for alchemy, enchanting, and smithing. Now, I do want to note that every skill book in the game has multiple copies, but for alchemy, smithing, and enchanting, there is only one, and exactly one, that I'm aware of, that requires you to go into hostile territory, and that is A Tragedy in Black, which is an enchanting book. However, there's a copy of that book in Glenmoral Coven, so if you've gone through the Companion's quest line, and hopefully brought a follower with you out there, you should already have picked up that book. So every other book for those 3 skills should be easy to access, typically in populated areas, towns, shops, these sorts of things. I do want to make special mention of one particular location and one particular book, however, and the location is Gloombound Mine. As you can see, it's roughly due east of Kynesgrove, but in order to access the mine, you have to pass through Narzumber, which is an orc stronghold. They aren't going to be happy to see you if you aren't blood kin with the orcs, but they will not attack you as long as you don't do anything aggressive. So ignore their jeers and just walk on through. And you can see here we have heavy armor forging sitting on the table, just outside the entrance to the mine. The other reason this location is special and noteworthy is it's the best source of ebony in the game. Even if you don't want to steal it off the wagon here, going into the mine, there are a ton of ebony deposits. So definitely plan on visiting this location, if not for the skill book, certainly for the ebony. But that's going to do it for now. Between episodes, like I said earlier, I'm going to be collecting some skill books. I also need to go kill Cicero to get his clothes, to give that 20% barter bonus. And then we're going to be all set. We're going to be ready to push into alchemy and enchanting and get into some of our end game smithing gear. Until then, thank you all so much. Please like and subscribe. This has been Honestman, and I will see you next time with more Skyrim Optimized.